Alright guys, welcome back to this learning module. Today we're gonna create a table to store all the CSV records into our PostgreSQL. The CSV file looks like this, okay? So we have the column here, the region, the country, item type, sales channel, all the priority, or the date, or the ID, ship date, the unit sold, unit price, unit cost, total revenue, total cost, and also the total profit column. Okay, so we're gonna store this table into our PostgreSQL, right? Now before we do that, let's create a new SQL file. Alright, now let's right mouse click and let's go to new and we select text document, right? Now for this, let's enter create table. Okay, and the file extension, we're gonna change it to SQL. Alright, now if you couldn't locate the file extension, you need to actually go to the view here and you need to make sure you have the file name extensions checked. Alright, so once you have this extension checked here, you can change the file extension. Alright, so let's hit on yes. Now we have a SQL file created, and let's go back to our pgadmin. Okay, and let's right mouse click on the tables and let's go to the query tool. Okay, now we're gonna go to the open file here and we're gonna select on the new SQL file that we have created. Alright, now let's hit on select, and now we can see the create table SQL file has been opened, right? So right now what we're gonna do here is we are going to remove the two test table here because we are not going to use these two table anymore. Alright, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna use the drop table SQL command to drop the table for test 1 and also for test 2. Alright, now let's hit on the execute button, and right now we can see the drop table query is successful. Alright, so right now if we go to our tables and we hit on the refresh F5 keyboard button, we can see the test 1 and test 2 table is no longer available, right? So right now if we run the query again, we are going to hit on error because the table is no longer exists in our schema, right? So do take a note that SQL command is actually a one-way direction, okay? There's no turning back unless you create the table again, alright? So once you have dropped the table, it's going to be gone forever, right? So right now, let's remove these two SQL command here. And we're gonna start off by creating a new table to replace the test table here, alright? So we're gonna say drop table if the table exists, okay? So please drop the table of test here if it exists, right? So if you run this SQL command here and we refresh our navigation pane here, the table for test has been removed, right? So if we trigger the execute button again, it will prompt out a notice. Table test does not exist anymore, so it's going to skip this query here, right? So it won't run into error if we use the if exists statement when we are dropping our table, right? Now for here, I'm gonna enter a new line here and I'm gonna say create table of sales, right? And I'm gonna enter the bracket in with a semicolon, and let's enter a new line here, and I'm gonna fill in all the column that is available in our raw data. Alright, so I'm gonna fill in region, I'm gonna fill in country, and also the item type here. Okay, so for the region, this is gonna be a varchar. Country will be also varchar here. And for the field item type here, because there's a space in between here, we're gonna enclose the field with a double quote here, right? So for item type, we're gonna put in varchar as well. Okay, and let's try to run our query. Alright, so there's a syntax error at here. So what is wrong with our query? So this comma here should be residing at the end of each of the field types, right? So let's run again, and right now we can see the create table query has been executed successfully. Alright, right now when we refresh our schema, we can see the sales table has been created with 3 new columns within the table. Alright, now that we have created the sales table, how do we actually add in the rest of the table here? You can continue to actually add in the fields right below here, but another way to do this is to actually use the alter table query. Alright, so I'm gonna comment out the first 2 queries that we have here. Just put in a / and a star, and right where we want to end the comment section, we're gonna put in star and the / okay, so this will actually comment out all the query above. Alright, so we're gonna do alter table test. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna use the add column query. Okay, so we're gonna add column for our sales channel. Alright, so remember to add in a double quote here because there's a space in between the field, and we're gonna add in a varchar here as the data type. Alright, so let's go back to the next field. Here is the order priority. Alright, so if we want to do it in a much more quicker way, we can actually count the number of fields that we have in our raw data here. Okay, so we're gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, so we're gonna create 10 columns in our database, right? So I'm gonna copy this line here and paste it over, and let me copy again, paste it over. Now I copy these 4 lines here, paste it over, and now I would just need 2 more lines at below here, right? So the next thing I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna replace it with the respective field names, right? So I'm gonna change it with the order priority here. For the order date, I'm gonna change it to order date here, order ID, ship date, unit sold, unit price, unit cost. Okay, let's do the same for total revenue, total cost here, and the last will be the total profit, right? So let's copy this here, paste it over, change this to profit. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna change all these to the respective data types. Alright, so for unit source, it's gonna be the whole number, right? Unlike for our unit price column, unit cost column, these are the floating numbers, right? These are all numbers with decimal points. So what we're gonna do here for unit sold, let's go to unit sold. We're gonna change this to double precision. Okay. Next, for unit price, we're gonna change it to decimal. Same for the unit cost here, just paste it over for the rest of the column here. And let's remove the comma here, and we're gonna replace it with a semicolon. Okay. Now let's execute the query here. So there's a error prompt out is stating relation test does not exist. So remember, we have already dropped the table test here, and we have renamed the table to sales, right? So let's change this to sales, and let's execute the query, and we can see that the query for auto table has been executed successfully. Alright, now let's refresh our schema, and right now we can see there is 14 columns that has been returned, right? Now let's say, for example, we want to drop the region column from our sales table, right? So what we can do here is add in a comma, and we're gonna use the drop column SQL command. Okay, we're gonna just drop column region. Alright, now let's run this query here, and you will be still hitting error because the rest of the column has been added into the table. So what we can do here, we can actually comment out the lines to add the columns here. We will only run the drop column command here. Alright, now let's hit on execute, and right now we can see the query has been successfully executed. Now when we refresh the schema, it will only return 13 columns in our database. Okay, so for now, let's add in the region column back into our sales table. So let's use the add column region, and we're gonna add in the data type varchar here. Alright, so let's add the region column back into our sales table so that we can see in our schema we have 14 columns residing in our sales table. Alright, so yep, this is basically how we add in new columns, how we remove columns, how we create a table, how to drop a table in our PostgreSQL. So in the next tutorial, we're gonna learn how to copy all of the records here to be stored into our PostgreSQL. Alright, so yep, that's all for the lesson for today. Thanks for watching this tutorial, and I can't wait to see you in the next module. Thanks, and bye bye.